Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Today we are making a Stingray plush off of the pattern by BZ Art. I will link in the description below the pattern if you would like to make it yourself. I am voicing over the video live, so there may be some pausing and other things as I'm doing it, but hopefully that will not be too prominent of an issue. There are some seemingly random jump cuts in most of the clips. This is mostly just for the sake of keeping my head out of the frame. I wasn't always good at that, especially in the first clip. You'll notice that there are probably more jump cuts in the first clip than anywhere else. Speaking of the first clip, I also did not manage to place my camera particularly well, so there is a little bit of a beige fuzz at the top from the wood slat that my phone was bouncing against. That will be fixed by the second recording that I did. Anyways, let's get into the video. So here we have the pattern that I'm using, just all cut out. And here we're starting to draw on the fabric. I'm using a pencil, a B8 pencil, I'm pretty sure. Very soft lead, very soft. And I'm just tracing around the paper, paper cut out of the pattern onto the fabric. And then this way I can see the lines. You can actually sort of see them in the video itself, but you see that I'm picking up the paper. What I'm doing here is I did a reverse, so I will cut one like normally and then cut one reverse. That way they line up together when I sew them together. So, and then you see me just drawing the lines a little bit harder. That way I can see them better when I actually go to cut them out. And then here, this is the tail piece, or the top of the tail piece. The other two pieces were the top of the fins and body. This is the top tail piece. I had to go get something here, apparently. And again, just tracing it to be able to cut it out. And then here, I've got my fabric scissors. This is rather important. If you're not a sewer at all, like you don't have any experience, fabric scissors are made especially for fabric. And just they cut through fabric a lot easier than your regular craft scissors or anything like that, especially thicker fabrics like I'm using here. I'm using fleece, so yeah, you can see the tail cutout that I have now, and just going to cut out the fins and body now. But yeah, so the fabric scissors, it makes it so much smoother to cut through, especially thicker fabrics like fleece, but even something thinner like cotton, which most of you probably have your shirts made out of. That it makes it so much easier to cut through, rather than craft scissors, which can be very clunky. They're definitely made more for paper than for fabric or any other thing like that. And there you go, you can see one of the two cutouts there. And again, just cutting out the other one now. It does take a little bit of effort. And yeah, there we go. So I had repositioned my camera at this point because I had noticed, well, I think an alarm went off on my phone, and then that stopped the recording, so I had to fix it. And then you see here, I didn't actually draw the lines hard enough, so I had to use the paper to check. And here I fold out the underside fabric, so this will be, so the piece I'm tracing out now is the underside. It's all one piece of fabric, whereas the top, you'll notice, was two. The top being two both helps make the body fuller, so that when I stuff the body, it makes it much fuller and more squishy, as you want in a plushie. Whereas the bottom can just be one piece, and that makes it easier to sew together. And then here you can see I've got the underside of the tail. And again, cutting it all out. Yeah, that was very awkward to try and use my left hand. Don't recommend that. Use your dominant hand, guys. And for those of you who know, I was in a cast, and then a splint a little bit later on. I'm sure if you're in the server, you would have seen images. You'll notice that I'm working completely without any support. My wrist is definitely a lot better now. Then again, overall, like, cutting and sewing and stuff is not something that you particularly need to bend your wrist per se. You can do a lot of it just by bending your arm. And then here is the piece, and then this is how it all lays together. And then day 1 progress, because I did this over 2 days, so there's progress for day 1. It all layers on top of each other, as shown in the image. And then here, I'm pinning the tail so that the fabric stays together when I sew it. Again, I'm just kind of going over everything because I know most of you probably aren't really sewers, unless you found my channel through this video. Then you're probably a sewer. But yes, and you can see I'm kind of struggling to pin this. I'm not used to working with fleece, that's the fabric that I'm working with here. I'm not used to working with it, so it was definitely a challenge to figure out how I wanted to pin it before sewing. And here you can see I'm setting things up to be able to actually sew the fabric. And again, head into the frame because, yep, of course I did. And you can see I'm taking the pins out as I sew, which means that I won't accidentally sew over the pins because you don't want to do that. Unfortunately, this camera angle is not the best. I don't have a proper recording camera or anything like that, or recording space. I have my phone tucked between my mattress and the stat of my bed, over my desk. And then here you see I pulled out the thread and then I clip them, and then I'm going to turn I clip the ends of the fabric so that it doesn't try and pull or squish against each other. It makes more space. And then I turn the tail inside out. See, I've struggled a little bit with that at the beginning. And this is at like 8 times speed, by the way. This took me probably like 2 hours total to make over the course of 2 days. And then here we go. We've got it almost fully. There we go. Now it is fully turned inside out. And then here we've got the top again. So you can see I'm lining everything up. This takes me probably 10 minutes in real life to like line everything up. That was a little bit embarrassing, but whatever. And then we've got it pinned. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew part way, leaving like a gap in the middle open. That way I can stuff it later once I have everything put together. So you can see I did the first bit now, and I'm just clipping the thread. And then here we're going to do the other part after I fix my sewing machine. Because, again, it's sometimes when you're working with a sewing machine, your thread will be not very cooperative. So you have to fix it, but not that's too hard. And then take out the pins, and the tail goes on the inside. So we're putting the right edges together so it will go inside out. There it is, fully pinned, because that was a little bit of a pain. And then again, sewing. So when you do it, you want to put right edges together, and that means that you can then keep the seams on the inside so that you don't have all the seams on the outside. It looks kind of ugly if it was like that, unless it's meant to be like that. There are certain like quotes and stuff where it's meant to be like that, but plushies, not so much. So tails on the inside so that it goes the right way when I flip it inside out. And then again, right sides together. The right side is, if you don't know, is like the side where the pattern is more visible, or the side where the fur's on, or depends on the fabric, but like the side that you want to be visible is the right side. The other side is the wrong side, evidently. And then here you can see we've got it sewn all together now. I've gone all the way around the outside. And then what we're doing next is we're putting in the eyes. So I'm using some safety eyes. You can see me holding one up there. And then there's a little white like washer almost that you just put on the inside to hold it in place. I tried literally every other scissor that I had, and then used my fabric scissors, which I literally just should have done that in the first place. But here I put in the eye. You unfortunately can't see it super well, again, just because of my camera angle. Struggled a bit because I thought you were supposed to twist it on. No, you're supposed to just like push it on there. You just squish it. I got it eventually. And And then here we go with the other one. Now that I've learned my lesson, this goes much faster. And then here you can see me turning it inside out, or kind of see me turning it inside out, except I forgot to clip the curve, which you're supposed to do when you turn things inside out. It helps prevent the fabric from like bunching up or from stretching out too far, depending on which kind of curve you have. And then again, just pulling it all out. And then here we have the Stingray without its stuffing. It's actually almost done. At this point, it only took me probably like not even that long. Like, so here I'm top stitching just to, this way the stuffing stays within the body and doesn't go into the wings of the Stingray. I do this on both sides and struggle a little bit because of course I do. I'm not a super advanced sewer. And you can see here I pulled out the stuffing now. So then all the stuffing goes on the inside, obviously. I don't know why I said that. But it all goes in. You want to stuff it as, like, pretty much overstuff it. That way it gets as plush as possible, because stuffing does tend to collapse a little bit. I'm sure if you guys have old stuffies, you'll have noticed like the stuffing kind of collapses a little bit. It gets more like flat. So you want to overstuff it when you're making a plushie. That way it becomes super plush. You don't want it to be like rock hard, but you want it to be like really like squishy, but keep its form. And then here I'm pulling out a thread for to sew together the hole that's now in the top of the Stingray. So tying a knot here. I chose a red thread because it was a similar color to the Stingray, which typically if you want to do a stitch like this. So I'm doing what's called a ladder stitch. And there again made a little mistake. When you want to sew like this, you can see me struggling to pull the needle out. When you sew like this with like a ladder stitch or an invisible stitch or anything like that, split your embroidery thread so that you're only using half of the like width of the thread. Like you split it down the center. It makes it much easier to pull the needle out, because yeah, much thinner, much better. Learn from my mistakes, guys. I should maybe learn from my own mistakes. It'd be good. But yeah, so here you can see like the seam slowly closes up as I sew it together with the ladder stitch. That I wasn't very consistent on it, unfortunately. You won't be able to see that in the video as much, but it's definitely, it's meant to be a not very visible stitch, but so if you do it like consistently and relatively close together, it'll be more invisible than mine was. Or you can just use an invisible stitch, which is, it's similar to the ladder stitch, but then it's a little bit different. And then we're just finishing it up here in a moment. This actually took me a little bit of time, mostly just because of my inability to pull the needle out, because it kept getting like stuck in the fabric. Because of course the fabric's thick, and then I forgot to split the embroidery threads, which that did not help at all. I think I probably poked myself like 3 times just trying to do this. Not very fun. Yeah, and there he is. There he is, all finished. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.